All right, thank you again, everybody, for being here. Sudo Talks is something we started, I think this is the fourth one, perhaps the fifth one we've done of these. Something where we do more kind of a down and dirty, let's get our hands into using Addigy. At the end of the day, Addigy is all Mac admins working with Apple every single day of the week. It's what we do, it's what we love. We eat it for breakfast in the morning, and occasionally it bites us at 30 minutes before we're going to do a webinar like today. But that's who we are. So anyway, again, thanks for being here. Let's roll ahead. Max is going to be doing some live cooking for you all today, and also running the slide deck because we know I'm not capable. But today we wanted to kind of take you through some examples of what some of our top customers are doing with Addigy to get more done. We know at the end of the day, you're relying on Addigy not only to take care of your customers, but also to make you as effective as possible so you can get as much done as you want. We're going to be going through examples today of things you can do to automate some of the work you have to do every day so you can be more focused on doing the bigger picture sorts of items, working on larger projects. And so we want to go into the details of some things that we've taken a look at that our customers are doing, some things that we have identified that work very well to help make you more efficient as we go along. The other thing we'd like to do as we go along is if you've got ideas for things that you do to help automate your world or to make things more efficient, please go ahead and drop them in the chat and share them in there so everybody can take advantage of those. And again, as we're going through these, please drop your questions in. We'll be happy to try and answer them as we go. And we also have Q&A at the end as we go forward. So next slide, please. My name is John Sutcliffe. I am the head of the product team here at Addigy. So a lot of what I do is trying to, again, talking with all of our different customers who are out there, understanding what your needs are, what you have to do, working with our support team, with Max, with our onboarding team, our sales team, being able to roll up those things. What do we need to do in the product? Working with Apple in terms of what's new there and putting those things together. So we know what are we going to build, what do we need to do, and do those kinds of things as we go forward. Max.
Yeah. So I'm the support operations specialist, but pretty much I just like to make sure that support is as effective as it can be in helping all of you with any of your questions or when the product is on fire. I don't like to point fingers, John, but we do like to clean up your mess. And yeah, we just like to make sure that everything is running smoothly. Even though there may be fires, we try to make it seem like everything is a-okay. And hopefully you guys are able to see that experience if you submit a ticket.
Yeah, Max is, he and the support team absolutely are doing that, but he's being a little too modest too. Max is one of our deeper subject matter experts on the product, is deeply engaged in trying to help us identify how are we going to build some things and do that kind of stuff. And he was kind enough to say, yes, I'll help you with this webinar when I asked him a month ago, and here we are today. So let's go. Next slide, Max.
Okay.
All right, today, so some of the things we're going to go through, and there's a lot more in Addigy you can do, but we're going to start with monitoring remediation, kind of the heart and soul of Addigy, what you can do there. We're going to show you some examples of what customers do. Maintenance, what can you do with maintenance to get things done? We're going to talk about deploying custom software and how you can go about being more efficient with that, some tips and tricks from Max that he's used to help with a number of customers. But we're also going to show you some ways to be able to build out small test groups so you can roll that out in a smaller group before you push it out to your entire organization. And we're going to do something with flex policies. If you haven't had a chance to look at the beta yet, I'd encourage you to do so. But we're going to give you a concept called saved reports, give you a quick way to identify some information. So Max, let's go ahead and jump right into monitoring remediation.
Thanks, John. So monitoring remediation, I'm just going to go over a bit of the basics of it, just in case anybody would like that. But essentially, monitoring allows you to take a look at the state of the device using facts, and based on the output of that fact, you could determine if it is in an unwanted state and provide you with an alert or hopefully a automatic remediation using a command or a script to get you out of that unwanted state. So I'm actually going to go through, since monitoring items are, they have some components, I'm going to go through each of them individually. You start with an alert trigger. This takes the device fact, which can either be a default fact that we provide, or as in the example here, it's actually going to be a custom fact that I'm going to be showing you that does leverage an existing fact, but just adds a little bit of seasoning to it to make it accomplish a specific goal. And in this case, it's basically saying if the fact is greater than or equal to 4, trigger. And I want to make sure that I'm alerted when this occurs by either creating a support ticket. This will either go to your support email that you've set up in your Addigy environment, or if you hook up ConnectWise or AutoTask, you can actually get the alert sent as a direct ticket over to your organization and move that away from Addigy and into another environment. As I mentioned before, we can also allow for automated remediation. You don't need to set up remediation. It could just be alerting you that this is occurring and you may need to take some manual action. But in the case that commands can get your device out of the state that is currently undesired, you could set that up to actually run right after it is triggered on your device. So here's actually a list of the top 10 monitoring facts that the facts that we see in monitoring items. At the top of the list is free disk percentage. We like to, make sure if devices are using up all of the percentage on the device. But I would actually like to add a disclaimer to that. We have commands that are able to pull the most accurate information of how much is taken on the device, but we cannot take into account purgeable data, which is something that basically means that it's things on the device that can be removed, but aren't currently removed until the disk space is used up. So I like to say that it's a good ballpark of what the current device has, but it won't be an exact number. Always the most accurate number will be the one that you see in the UI that Apple has calculated. And some other things such as uptime days, which is the one I'm actually going to be going over, which is going to be building out a monitoring item that can actually prompt the user when their device has been up for, let's say, 4 days. And it also makes sure by making a custom fact that not only does it get the uptime, but it actually will only prompt them for 1 day. So let me actually go over that now. So I should have right about here. So this is basically what I have. So this is the custom fact that I showed you earlier. Essentially, if you see here, just something, a little bit of something to take home with you. You can actually leverage existing Addigy facts in any of your custom softwares, maintenance, monitoring, scripts, anything that you have deployed in Addigy, as long as it is in the scripts folder. And this could even be a custom fact, so you can have custom facts referencing custom facts, even though that may be a little bit redundant. But in this case, basically what I'm doing is I'm saying that I want to put the prompt date. So whenever this has been initialized on a device, it does not have this prompt date file, which is listed here, which is just going to add a little txt inside the Addigy directory. And I'm also having a date variable take in the current date. It will put that date into the prompt date file. And for the first day this runs, it'll echo 0. It's basically saying because the cat of the prompt date file, what is inside the prompt date file is equal to the current date, basically just echo 0. This is because I'm going to be using if greater than a certain amount of days trigger. But if this is already prompted for the user today, I don't want to keep prompting them every time the auditor runs, which is every 5 minutes. So I just want to update this file daily so it only runs once a day. And let me actually show you what the actual item looks like. So here is the actual item that I was showing you the pictures of. And essentially what it'll do is it reference that fact. And then if it does trigger, it'll prompt the user for a restart. So I actually have that right here. And I'd also like to add that I'm going to be putting out a KB that has all this information. So if you'd like to use any of these in your environment, that will be available to you. So what this basically does is it creates a prompt using the Mac Manage prompt, which I highly recommend that you use in your deployments. It automatically uses the macmanage.app to add a title, a description, how long is this prompt going to be there, and if they accept it, it could take a bit. It could put in a behavior such as shutting down the device in a restart state. And in this case, it actually will let the user know once they accept it, the device is restarting in 30 seconds and to please save your work. You may see, if you're familiar with scripting, this may look odd, but this is just something to add to your scripts to make sure that the exit code is 0. In the case when you shut down a device using the Addigy environment, it may return an exit code of 1, which is not desirable, even though it did successfully shut down the device. Now, I would like to show, I have it here. I don't think I have oh, actually I do. Here we go. So let me actually just sign in real quick. So this is identity. And while we're waiting for that, I apologize. We could get started. I can put a GIF that will show the behavior, and I could send that into the article. But essentially what it does is it'll show a prompt that says restart your device. You can either accept it. If you click cancel, then it will prompt them the next day. If you click accept, it will shut down the device and allow that uptime to go back to 0. So for the maintenance, essentially it's maintenance items are very similar to monitoring items in the sense that maintenance items are more in the line of preventing an issue from occurring than actually monitoring items are waiting for an issue to occur and then taking an action on that item. In this case, you can actually set monitoring items to go for specific days, or maintenance items to go for a specific frequency or a cadence, daily, weekly, or monthly. And in the case of my example, I actually have a script that will go through the all the users on the device. And if the file itself is greater than a certain amount of days, so it's been in the recycling bin for a certain amount of days, it'll automatically remove it. You could actually just have it set to just automatically wipe out the trash bin, but sometimes users may be deleting files that they'd later want to recover. So I built it out so that it specifically looks for the epoch time of when the file was created, and then it just removes it. In this case, it's only echoing out because it was testing, but in the official version, it would actually remove anything that's in the trash bin. And then custom software. So I know it looks a little odd. Let's put the slideshow back on. So custom software basically assists you with deploying items. So even though the name custom software really implies that it is generically used for software, but it's really for putting files on the device and then performing something with that file. An example could be, I've seen users add fonts. So they would put like a zip file on the installation files, unzip the file, and then use the installation script to move all of those items to a certain directory. But anything that you'd want to put the files on the device and then perform an action on that file, custom software is really the way to go. And what makes it even more powerful is the fact that we actually have, if you upload a PKG, for example, you can actually click add installation script and it'll auto-populate the commands needed to actually install that PKG on the device. Something else really important to note is even though it does mention PKG, DMG, or zip, you can really put any file on there. And also, it's really important to note the download destination towards the bottom, where it's the /library Ansible packages installer 1.0, because that's the directory that the custom software will actually be running in from the installation files. So something I see is people like to use the absolute path, which is the actual path to the file. So it'd be /library Addigy Ansible packages installer and then installer.pkg. But since the installation script is actually running from the context of the installer 1.0 directory, you can actually just put install.pkg and use the relative directory. So I mean, it's a little bit of shorthand, and it's also good for when you need to create multiple custom softwares with the same script, same file, but maybe different custom software names. So you don't need to add that full line and change it for each one and not worry about that. Sometimes I see people run into that issue. So what we've added relatively recently, I would say within last year, maybe year and a half, is actually the ability to look inside of the file. So if you look at the install.pkg, it says apps found. This allows for you to basically automatically look at any binaries that are in that file that you've uploaded and provide whitelisting for that for the PVC prompts that could appear for the end users. What this actually does is it will pull the bundle ID and the code requirement of the file, and then allow you to set specifically what you'd like to allow and disallow. As many people are aware, certain devices you will need to have screen capture to use that ability to do so, but we can only allow the standard users to approve it. We cannot automatically approve it on those devices. So that's just something I'd like to mention. So installation script, this is what would show if you were to click add on the add installation script. It automatically populates the commands needed to install this custom software on the device. In this case, you see that we automatically put the full library Addigy Ansible packages installer 1.0 installer.pkg. And as I mentioned before, it could just be install.pkg and it would work just as well. Custom software also allows for conditions. So I see a lot of people use set success if following exists, but I prefer set failure. Why? Because it looks more readable in the sense that this is basically saying if this .app exists, then the file exists, exit 1, do not continue the software. Else, this file name does not exist, I want to install this, so exit 0. Exit 0 is always success. Anything other than exit 0 is a failure.
Hey,
if
Max,
you were to set, yes?
your video is frozen solid. Might
Really?
want to stop and restart it. Yeah.
Let me see.
But everything else seems to be going good. We are also getting a report of people not able to join with M1 Max. They're having problems. We're not
Really?
sure what's up there, but just so everyone knows, we are recording this. So if you're with someone on M1 or whatever else, let them know we are recording it. And the scripts and things that Max is working on, we are going to get those into KBs and whatnot, and we'll get those shared out to everybody. There'll be a follow-up email after the session. So sorry, go ahead, Max.
No, I thank you for letting me know. Are you able to see the transition now?
Yes, slides are
Okay.
working well. It's just your camera that's not working.
Oh, camera.
Camera, yes.
How about now?
Hey, there you are. All right.
Okay. Okay, and similarly to the installation script, the removal script will actually allow you to remove the items that were installed on the device. Even though in this case I put just the .app, it's really important to know that not all applications are the same. There may be specific folders or directories and files that are created outside of the .app. So we always recommend to look at the developer documentation to know exactly what to remove. But in the case of most applications, everything should be baked into the .app. So you could just set the .app to remove when this software is removed from the policy. So what I'd actually like to do now is not really show you something to take home with you, but more so go over the workflow that I like to use when creating custom softwares, especially with DMGs, because DMGs seem to be one of the more difficult because you never really know exactly what's inside a DMG. Even though Google Chrome is relatively simple, and we do provide it through our public software, I thought it's a good example of what to kind of show for the process of this. So what I like to do is I'll have one tab open where I'll go to GoLive, and I'll start up my software here. And then I'll have another tab open to the actual software that I want to test with. So in this case, I've already deployed this, but what I'd actually like to do is first deployment. All I really want to do is I want to deploy this. So as I mentioned before, I could type out the whole directory path here to get the absolute path. But in this case, I'm just going to use the file name just because it's much shorter. Okay. And the first thing I would do is I would just save this as it is. So I'd confirm. And then I would open up my tab here, and I would want to just deploy that application. Okay. So because I already set it, no. Okay, it's because I already have this. That's why I like to have the 2 tabs so I can go back and forth. Okay, so as you see here, the DMG properly mounted. So then what I would do is I would open up a live terminal session on the device. If you don't know what live terminal is, it just starts up a SSH session on the device without affecting the end user, where you can then run commands and just take a look at what's going on the device. So what I would do here is I would take a look at the volumes directory. So when DMGs are mounted, they will mount on the volumes directory. And I see that here, Google Chrome is here. And I just want to know what's inside there. So for the example of the script, I know that it's probably going to mount with the same name of the DMG or something similar, but I don't know what's inside here. For the most part, it's usually recommended that a .app is inside here, but I believe I've seen a .pkg, and there may be additional files there as well. So it's just something to take note that this is why I like to do the full process, because it just lets me know I know exactly what's in there. And as I'm testing this out, I'm actually getting all the commands needed to build out the custom software. So what I like to do here is whenever I deal with a directory path, I always put it in double quotes, even if it doesn't have spaces, just in case, but it's mainly to prevent the interpreter from thinking that this is 2 separate commands. If I didn't put the double quotes, it would think that I'm asking for ls/volumes/Google and then ls for Chrome. But in this case, I want to say this is all one parameter, so I put the double quotes between them. And then I see that I have a Google Chrome.app inside here. So then I can go ahead and just make sure that this is here. It should show contents because that's inside the .app. And then I can go ahead and just copy this back into the custom software. So what I want to do is a .app is essentially a directory. It behaves in a file when you click on it, when you execute it. But as you saw when I LS'd it, it did show files within there. So when I want to copy this, I need to make sure that I recursively copy. So I copy the actual directory that I'm referencing and all directories that are within those directories and so on and so forth until it gets to the bottom of the tree, and then move all those files over. And for applications, it's pretty easy. All you really want to do is move that over to the applications directory. And everything should be good there. And then the second command we want to do is after we attach this, we want to make sure that it's no longer on the device. So we want to make sure that we detach this by just copying only the directory that's mounted. And I'm putting this all in double quotes. And then I can also go ahead and show you the condition script as well. So the reason why I could actually go into why I don't like the success, or more so, you can use it. It is functional and it does work. However, I just think it's much easier to read. If you understand how exit codes work with the native commands, then it should be pretty self-explanatory. But I just like to add this because, and you don't need to put the double quotes here, we add it for you. It just basically runs an ls command. So as I mentioned, as I ran before, if this exists, it will give an exit 0. If it doesn't exist, it gives an exit 1. However, I think it's just much more readable to have the if-else statement. As mentioned here. Okay. But in the case that I have this, I already have the Google Chrome.app already on there, so I don't want to let that run again. And then I can go ahead and go back to software, deploy. Don't worry, John, I'm almost done. I'll give you enough time to talk.
No, you're doing the heavy lifting, so this is fantastic. I just put my feet up and sit back. I should have probably cracked a beer.
Oh yeah. So when it takes this long running, you know it's doing something. So that's definitely better than just a failure. Here's something else I like to look at is, let's say I refresh the page, I no longer see the status is running, I can no longer see the details. Everything run on the GoLive page is actually going to show in the history. This could be on the devices page or on the GoLive page. And I can actually see that it is installing this item right here. I'm waiting for it to install. I could take a look at one of them that's already installed just to kind of show you that there's a lot of information here, but a lot of this is just initialization of the software. If you really want to diagnose what's going on, you really want to look towards, I would say, like the last 5 to 10 lines, especially when you get an error. That's probably what's really going to kind of point you in the direction. That's the smoke of like what is probably causing this software to not install properly. So I see I actually got an error. That's actually good because now I can see what is my error, what occurred on this device. So I'm seeing that
you planned You'd plan to get an error to show the clock,
Of
right?
course. Yes. So actually, this is due to the fact that I previously was actually testing with this. So I can actually see that the CP command cannot overwrite this directory. This is basically saying that this directory already exists and I cannot overwrite it, which means that the Google Chrome is already on the device. So if I wanted to, I could actually just remove it, and I would want to do it recursively. So rmrf/applications, and you could always tab to just get all that out of there. Google Chrome, that app, and it automatically puts a backslash, but you could either use double quotes or backslash, not both. And I could just remove that, and app permission denied. So I just need to run sudo bang bang. This runs the previous command to sudo, and I have now removed the application. So if I go back to software now and I deploy it, hopefully it runs a lot faster because it already downloaded all the files needed. Crossing my fingers that it won't fail again. John, why is this taking so long? What's going on? Why is this so slow? I'm just messing.
I think it's the corner of the office you're in, and the
it's the
access
network
point.
Yeah. Well, we could actually take a look at what is my networking speed. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. Awesome. Green. Green is good. And let's just confirm. Yep. Disk 3 ejected. And if I went back to live terminal and I LS'd for the applications, Google Chrome is on the device and contents is there. So awesome. It's successfully installed. And then I could just take a step further, and as I showed you before in that previous one, which was actually accidental, but instead of just going through that again, I could just show you what that was. I believe it was this one. In the case that you set a condition script, it actually won't even install the files or anything. It will see that the application is already on the device. It gets an exit status code of 1, and it just skips the installation altogether. I highly recommend condition scripts. While we will only deploy a software once if you don't have a condition script, it's always recommended to have a condition script. It just prevents issues, and it just makes sure that you know that the application is on the device. Okay, so I believe that is it for me. Right, John? You have the flex policy.
I'm up.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Max is much braver than me. He did the live cooking. I'm going to give you some screenshots on the way through. But one of the things with custom software, if you're doing OS updates or anything else, you've gone ahead, you've put this custom software package together, you've tested it on your machine, and the danger now is you're going to fall into that pattern of, well, it worked on my machine, why doesn't it work on your machine? So what a lot of our admins like to do is before they push this out across their fleet or across a large group of people, said they want to have a defined set of test devices. Perhaps this is other members of your IT team, you know, they're more sophisticated, so if something does break, they're going to be able to help you troubleshoot it. And I wanted to take you through a quick example using the new flex policies, how you could define some devices where you would push this piece of custom software before you push it out to your entire organization. So we're going to walk through that right now. So let's go ahead and create this test group. So Max, next slide. So this is my organization that I test in. Fairly small. Many of you have got much bigger ones. But one of the things you'll notice on here is I've got a top level policy called test groups. So let's go ahead and drill into that. Next slide. So when we get in here, what I've done is I've created a policy, a child policy of those, and it's called custom software rollouts. And I'm going to show you how we get the devices assigned to this in a minute. But what I'm doing is the only thing that's in this policy is that custom software item that you want to test. And again, this could be a maintenance item perhaps you're pushing out. You want to test on a number of devices. Maybe you've got a complex piece of maintenance. You're going to run it on a daily basis, but you want to roll it out. Let it run for a week across that small subset of devices until you're sure it's right. It could be any number of things like that. So again, what I've done is this is the only thing in this policy, and there are no devices assigned to this at this point. This is a flex policy, and again, if you go down into your account settings, you can turn on the flex policy to play with this if you'd like. Okay, let's go ahead to the next slide, and we'll take a look at assigning devices. Assign devices to your test group. Next slide. So at this point, I go to the devices page. And when I get into the devices page, right now I'm looking at everything. Perhaps you would filter this list by a list of policies already you've got, or whatever the case may be. But in this case, I picked 3 devices that I want to have in my test group. So from here, I go into, I'm going to say add policies. Sorry, I have the wrong one picked in this, but we're going to click the add policies button, and let's go to the next slide. And when I come up with the assigned policies, I'm going to pick the custom software rollouts. And what it's going to do is each of these devices is now going to be added to that policy. It's not going to move them out of that policy where they're enrolled in their standard hierarchy. It's just going to say that anything in this custom software rollouts policy also apply to this device. So those 3 machines are all going to get this piece of custom software enrolled or pushed out to them when they go forward. So next slide. So again, that's a quick way to be able to build a subgroup. Now, the other thing, before I jump into some self-service things here, with those subgroups in that manual assignment, perhaps this is also a special group of people. Perhaps it's your C-suite, right, where you really have got a set of devices that you really move cautiously with. So you create a flex policy that's got those devices in it, and that's where you add special things, or you use that as a way to exclude those devices from those things happening. And again, further down in the presentation today, we're going to have a link to a number of these KBs, and there'll also be an email after the session that'll have additional KB information and a link back to this recording. I know we're going pretty quickly here. So one of the next things people use to really help speed up how they get things done is self-service. The idea with self-service is that you can find a way to empower your device users to be able to help themselves in certain situations. Part of with self-service is over time, you begin to train your users to, before they come to you for help, they go into self-service, and there's some different things they can do. The one thing you're going to see here is actually something that's going to release probably early next week. You'll notice in that software, it says apps and books. And I don't know if you know or not, but apps and books in Addigy refers to things that come from Apple Business Manager from MDM. So you can purchase from Apple. We're adding the capability to be able to deploy MDM apps via self-service for your users to do. So this is a preview of that. The other thing you can do with self-service is be able to put scripts down in self-service for users to be able to run themselves. One of the examples we have is, many of you know Nicholas Ponce, who runs our ops teams and supports, I don't know, 76% of our customers, I think by himself sometimes, when the rest of us aren't getting there. But what he's done is he's actually put together a script that when one of our machines is having a performance issue, much like mine was about 35 or 45 minutes ago, it's a script that goes and it very quickly runs sysdiagnostics on the machine. It collects, what's going on with performance and all those kinds of things, packages those up, and then we upload that back to Addigy so we can collect that. And what he's done is he's taught us, when you're having a performance issue, right at that moment it's happening, jump into self-service, run the script, it collects those things and it sends it. If somebody's complaining, once in a while my machine hangs up, it gets stuck, it gets frozen. The problem with that is by the time they get a ticket filed and you have a chance to get back to them, the machine is probably running fine again. They've rebooted, whatever else, and you don't have a chance to catch it at that moment. So putting scripts out in self-service and teaching your users when to use those is a quick way for you to get diagnostic information back, or to clean something up in a hurry. And you can train your users to use those things before they open that ticket. Every ticket you keep off your desk from coming to you is more time for you to get back during your day. So self-service and Mac manage. And again, if there's some things you're doing, like with self-service or maintenance or monitoring or remediation, drop those in chat. We'd love to see what you guys are doing too, and share those with the broader community as well. Next slide. All right, last thing we're going to go through is I'm going to give you some examples of something people have been asking for a long time: saved reports in Addigy. This is coming out of the new Flex policies. And the idea here is you're going to build some set of criteria that you want to know the devices that meet that criteria, right, on a regular basis. Perhaps you want to know what are all the devices that potentially are sitting in a state where they've reported an issue with battery, as an example. So we're going to go through an example. Again, you can see at the top level, I've created a policy called reporting. So I'm putting my reporting policies underneath that. So let's go into reporting. And from here, underneath reporting, you can see I've got 3 different ones created. And at my age, I have to put my nose right against my screen to be able to read all these. But the first one on that list is battery issues. I've got a second one that we're going to go through an example, lost devices. And then a third one is silicon devices. We're not going to look at that today. So we're going to go ahead and go into battery issues. And let's take the next step. So what I've done is I've created a policy, a flex policy that we're going to use auto assignment on. And in that flex policy, what I've done is I've created the criteria that says if a device has a battery loss percentage greater than 25%, or it's got battery cycles greater than 750, or battery failures are greater than 0, I want them to be in this flex policy. This flex policy, this auto assignment, actually doesn't do anything to a machine. There are no software items connected to it. There's no maintenance, there's no monitoring or anything else. It's just simply to say, if a device meets this criteria, put it in here. And I'll show you what the power of this brings. Okay, next slide. So now if I jump to the devices page, I'm going to drop down my list of policies, and I'm going to pick the policy called battery issues. So let's go ahead and pick that, Max. Next slide. And what I've got now is all my devices that meet some sort of criteria of the 3 that I put in there are going to be in this list of devices. So I very quickly see across my entire fleet any device that's reported a battery issue. This device is a sample VM, so I did some magic behind the scenes to get it to appear in here. You can see I think the battery failures are around 83 or 84. Again, based on how my Intel was behaving earlier today, it might be 83 or 84 battery failures from what I've been seeing. But again, you can see I put the criteria right here so you can see it meets one of those criteria, so it shows up here. So again, this is a quick way. Like if you've got criteria of any sort, maybe you want to see all of your silicon machines or all of your M1s, or maybe you just want a quick list across my entire fleet. What are all the devices that have Mac OS 14 on them? Build a smart policy, build a flex policy with the criteria Mac OS is 14. You can come in here, choose that policy, and you're going to quickly get that list. You can export it or do whatever you'd like with it very quickly. So Max, let's go on to the next one. This is what we call manual assignment. Oh, Craig already answered. Is flex policy new? Yes, it is. And we can talk about, there's a link to the KB on how you get that enabled that we'll have in a minute here. So with flex policies, a device can get assigned to it in 2 different ways. The first way is automatically, again, based on a device fact, a custom fact, or a static field based on those values. The other way is you can assign a device to a flex policy manually. And again, remember, this is not going to move that device from where you enrolled it in the first place. It'll still live in that home policy. This example is about lost devices. So for instance, somebody calls you, oh my car got broken into, my laptop got stolen, and you want to mark that device as stolen, right? So what we do here is what I've done, the first step is I've created a policy again called lost devices, manual addition. So let's go ahead and drill into that, Max. Next slide. So again, I've got this policy that I created, this flex policy, it's manual assignment, but the difference between, one difference between this one and the last one I did is there was no automated assignment that I'm setting up to it. We'll get to that in a minute. But the second one is in this one, I've actually added a monitoring item. And the monitoring item I've added is when it comes online. So again, now a device is in my lost devices. I want to get an alert when that device comes online. Perhaps I can jump in there quick. I can take a look. Where's this IP address coming from? Maybe I can, push. I can check. It's going to check in. Hopefully, I can get a wipe on it. Maybe I can get a message put up on it. Hey, give me a call. I want my machine back. take some actions like that so you can see. The other one too is this over time becomes your list of lost devices, so you can quickly get an inventory of those. But let's go take a look at when I get a call or I get a help desk ticket, how do I put a machine into this report going forward? Max, next slide, please. So again, in this one, I picked the machine, Mac OS 7. This is, again, a test device that I've got in my environment. It's actually a dummy machine, doesn't exist in the real world. And I've picked it on the left, and I'm now going to click on Add to Policy. So go ahead and click Add Policies. And I've got a list of all my policies that I can assign a device to from here. And what I've done is I've filtered the list down to lost. So I'm only seeing lost devices. So I'm going to click on lost devices and hit save. Go ahead, click next. And now again, as I did before, I'm going to go on the devices page. I'm going to pick that lost devices policy. So let's go ahead and do that and hit enter. And now I've got a list of all my lost devices in one place. So I can do a quick report on it. And again, if I get an alert, this device has come online, I can jump in here and go live quickly and see what I can figure out about that device. So these are just a few examples of some things you could do for quote, saved reports. Have multiple criteria based on the state of that device, or create your own manual report where you add devices by hand. Adding them by hand is not necessarily the most scalable solution when you start to talk more than a few devices at a time. But again, for a situation like a lost device or something like that, it can come in very handy. And again, these are just some ideas to really get you thinking about things you can do. Again, you can jump into our Mac admin Slack in the Addigy channel, and if you've got ideas for these things, please share them there. Share them with the community. We'd really love to see the things you're coming up with. Again, Flex is very new, and as we're pushing through this, we're discovering all kinds of different things that we could potentially do with it, and go forward from there. So next slide, please, Max. All right, Q&A, how about that? So right here, we've got a link to some of the KBs. In the top row, these are some things, when I was going through some of the learning, I was working on that battery example, I was like, well, what is a good cycle count for a MacBook Pro and whatnot? So that first KB is from Apple. If you link to it, they actually break down based on a device type. Some devices are 250 cycles, and you need to think about it. MacBook Pros, newer ones, are like 1,000 cycles and things. So you can read about that. Apple battery info is just kind of a generic, what are Apple batteries, what's going on there. You can learn more about it. If you can't sleep at night, it's a great one to read more about the MacBook notebook battery specifically. The other one that I thought was very interesting too is, I don't know if you've looked at, we've got a fact that's called Smart. And the Smart utility is, it's one of our most used monitoring items. And when the Smart fact triggers, it means there is a bad situation beginning with a hard drive on that machine, something you should be monitoring for. So I put a link in there to read more about what Smart does, what it means, so you can really understand what's going on there. These things are pretty awesome. The two bottom ones, monitoring items, how to create those. There's a KB there, and Flex policies. And again, Max will be adding some additional KBs when we get done with this, so this will be there. Let's jump into some Q&A. Max, do you have anything else to add to what I've covered so far here?
No, I did want to make a retraction or an edit to what I said. Ross actually pointed out a good point. I forgot to mention that a condition script, back to the custom software aspect, a condition script not added, it will only deploy once, but if you manually click deploy now, it will deploy again. But if you do not manually click deploy now, it deploys once, and we just assume that it successfully deployed and will not go again. On the case of the KB articles, they are relatively done. I think we may want to get them a little bit overviewed by the KB coordinator, but if you guys are interested in the scripts, I could put down the KB article links in the chat here if you guys would like to see the scripts of what I went over, so you can take a look at that.
One thing as well I want to add, so Justin asked a question, when are Flex policies expected to leave beta? When I tested it on newly added devices, they failed to associate. meaning they won't show up on the devices page when filtered by policy. There's two parts to this. The first one is if you're doing automated device assignments, so you build a flex policy, and like in my example where battery capacity is, or what I want to say, battery cycles are greater than 750. The device won't immediately associate with it when you save the policy. The device actually has to check in the next time the auditor runs and those facts get recalculated. The device will appear in the policy. So I'd be curious if you could do, if you can take a look at that to see if that's happened, and if it's still not happening, please open a ticket. The second thing is, if you do go into a device, you go into the devices page. Max, do you have a devices page up right now? Could we jump into one? I'm going to put you on the spot right here, speaking of live cooking. So I want to go to the devices page, pick a device, and yeah, so just pick that one. Just table, just checkbox, and then go to select assign policies and add policies. Click the add policies.
Add policies.
Yep. Now, at this point, if you go through and do this process on this device, it will associate to all the policies that it would meet the criteria of immediately. This would supersede the auditor having to run on the device before it associates with it. Addigy Slack is there. Let's see, any plans for allowing apps and books from main policy being deployable to its child policies? Yes. In fact, is that? I'm trying to think if we've got that already. Yes, we are working on that. It's coming. We'll also move policies out of the parent, specifically for iPads. Yeah, currently we don't. So this is Justin again. We don't have a capability to be able to move policies at this point. That's something on our list that we want to do. There's some interesting complexities with that when you start to think about inheritance. So if you, let's say you're taking a grandchild policy and you want to move it to another area, you've got inheritance from up above. What might you be losing? What might be coming along with it? And so we're putting a lot of thought in that. And maybe it's just a clone, so you clone that and you can move the devices or some things like that. So I don't have a time frame on that, but it is something we really want to do. It's something we get asked for a lot. And Max, they love you. They want to see your scripts. Well, they don't love you. They love your scripts, and they want to see them. I love you, though. I love you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Any
come down here more, but it's every once in a while.
Couple of weeks. I'll be down in a couple of weeks, maybe. If you're in Miami too, stop in and see us. We'd love to have you by the office. It's better to come in January than it is to come in the summer because it's 1,000,000 degrees. I'm just killing a minute or two in case there are any other questions before we end this. If you do have questions after the session, you can email product@addigy.com. You can also, fire a support ticket. They know how to hunt us down and do those things. Please join the betas if you can and give us your feedback. When you're in a beta, and if you do discover something not working, please ask. Shoot us a note, ask us a question, whether it's on Slack or emailing product or support. If it's a product issue, your best bet is to open with support ticket, and those Max and his team work directly with us in terms of reaching out to us. I feel like there was one more thing I was going to say related to that. It'll come to me as soon as we hang up. All right, two more questions. Last question. Okay, Justin, it better be last question. Is there any way to silence notifications from the assist bot on the new site view? Naturally, it'd be better to actually deal with them, but monitoring events is way easier to silence them until a predefined time. I'm not sure I understand the question. Do you understand the question, Max?
John, I believe this is probably with regards to Norman. and being able to silence notifications.
Got it. Okay, I don't have a great answer for you on this one, Justin. We'll take a look at that and follow up. Do there happen to be any examples or articles on how to close a monitor that looks at a fact once the fact changes by any chance? Examples are how to auto close a monitor. Oh, I see what you mean. So this is the case where a monitoring item is triggered. You've got the monitoring item alert in the monitoring page. Without using a remediation, no. If you have a remediation associated with it that would fix it, that would close the alert. But otherwise, I don't know, Max, are you? I don't think there's another way. And yes, it is being. Oh, it was an answer. Yes, it is being recorded. All right.
What was the question again, John?
Any examples or articles on how to auto close a monitor that looks at a fact once the fact has been changed by any chance? And again, just without using remediation, I'm not aware of a way you could close it. It'll stay open until you open it.
Yeah, and I think the only way you could possibly do that would be through the API, and I don't think we have a public API endpoint for that. Yeah. Without remediation. Remediation would be the only way to have it auto close, or if it will auto close if it's if the ticket is submitted to a ticketing integration like Autotask or ConnectWise, it would close in Addigy but create a ticket in their integration.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate your time today. And again, please share any tips and tricks you have. We're always looking for better ways to do things and go from there. Thanks, Max. Max was a champion because I literally walked up to him about 3 weeks ago. I said, hey, and he said, I'm in, I'll help. So thank you very much, Max. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.